But yeah, so can you tell us what was it about the original series, La Chica que Limpia, that inspired you to create and be, the executive producer of The Cleaning Lady? So tell us, like, maybe the exact points of, like, you thinking, well, yeah, I want to make this into another series.
It was really that I've always wanted to do like a Breaking Bad, and like a female Breaking Bad, and especially an Asian female Breaking Bad. And what excited me actually about La Chica que Limpia is the opportunity to create a show where we could focus on undocumented immigrants, and actually highlight that part of the struggle for the character. So, building upon the original where she was a cleaning lady who worked for the mob, in our story, she's actually a doctor originally who, comes to another country, but because her credentials don't, basically aren't recognized in the United States.
Yeah.
She's forced to take these other kinds of jobs. And
Mhm.
it's a story of many immigrants from many different countries, and it's a struggle that they go through. And so that was, in terms of the character and what I wanted to build on that was, that was one of the main aspects of it. And then also to have a Southeast Asian character at the core of the show. So, really wanted to show a story about female empowerment, but also from the lens of a character that we've never seen before on TV, or at
So
least on US network TV.
absolutely. So let's get to Elodie Young first. And did you have a say in the selection process of having her as a lead role? And then tell us about that casting process, of course.
Oh,
And
yes. Yes, we all, we all have input on who gets cast. Casting was a struggle, I'll be honest with you, because, there haven't been a lot of roles for, Southeast Asian or Asian women to be the leads of a show. And so, you don't have people with the kind of, the kind of resume that normally gets the lead of a show. And so
right.
we did quite a far search. We searched in LA, New York, Toronto, Vancouver, the UK, Australia. We searched quite broadly. And there was actually a moment where, a couple of people said, well, should we broaden it out? Should we go beyond Asian? And I was like, that's when I was like, no. Like that, I decided to do a deep dive into the internet. And I found a few more actors that we hadn't seen yet, and Elodie was
Right.
one of them. So I put together this list, and Elodie was literally at the top of the list. And so when other casting fell through, I put that list forward. The next day, we saw Elodie and a few other actors. Elodie just blew our minds.
Mhm.
She was so strong, and then casting at Warner Brothers said, of course, like Elodie Young, and here's like on top of her audition, she sent a whole bunch of clips of her as well.
Mhm.
And so so Warner Brothers casting also totally got behind her, and then we brought her in for a callback, and we were in different cities at that point. It was right before the pandemic, and we were shooting in Albuquerque. We went to Location Scout in Vegas,
Mhm.
and Melissa and I came back to LA, and we did the callbacks there where Michael, the director, was on Skype in Albuquerque,
Yeah.
directing her as we were like holding up the laptop. And then the next day, the world shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, the doors were shutting, as this was all happening. And so one of the amazing things is that when the pandemic happened, and everything shut down, our production shut down, we had no idea when we were going to continue. Warner Brothers and Fox were so excited about Elodie that they decided to go ahead and cast her and hold her indefinitely. So they were very excited about the show, very passionate about the show, and then they were very passionate about her. So and then so we finished casting right at the beginning of the pandemic.
That's amazing. So Miranda, can you tell us, this being the Cleaning Lady, first primetime South Asian led series, So tell us how that feels, and then tell us what is it like to be the first, and what does that say for the future of the Southeast Asian sort of like market, or the film industry or the
Yeah.
television industry? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very exciting. There have been, a lot of not a lot, but there have been a handful of East Asian led series. And, but there's a lot, there's also been like a lot of shows that have to deal with martial arts. And
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of just completely steer away from the stereotype of it.
Hmm.
And also, a lot of times there aren't rules that are written for Southeast Asian characters.
Hmm.
But this one, it just, there was a moment in my life actually that influenced my decision to have this be a Southeast Asian character. And it was actually my travels through Hong Kong. And it was like a Sunday. I was, shopping in downtown, and I turned a corner, and there was literally thousands of Filipinos that were gathered and together, congregated on the streets, and they were sitting on cardboard boxes and plastic bags. And it was because it was Sunday, and it was their only day off, but they didn't have any homes. They didn't have homes, and they had no money to go anywhere.
Right.
So basically, the Filipino overseas workers were just congregating on the streets, and they were treated like second-class citizens. They were basically, just gathered. And it really affected me, seeing the scene and how these people were being treated.
Hmm.
And of course, this is something that happens not only in Hong Kong, but all over the world. And
Right.
sometimes it's not as apparent. A lot of times it's behind closed doors. But that's why I was really inspired to have her be Southeast Asian and be from the Philippines in particular. And so, adding to that, it's not, there's a class structure, but there's also, in a lot of, in a lot of cultures, there is colorism. There is, light skin versus dark skin, and the same goes for Asians. And so I think that is part of the reason why we haven't had any shows that have had Southeast Asian leads before.
Hmm.
So it was very important to me to put that voice on screen, because this is a show that takes people who are normally marginalized and pushed in the shadows and ignored, especially as overseas workers, as cleaning ladies, as service workers. And so that perspective was very important for me to hold on to, and that is part of the reason why I fought for that, for casting as well.
Excellent. Where did you, so like I've looked at your bio, and you written many scripts. So where did you learn to make screenplays or scripts? And then was there somebody that you would like to give credit to, who really helped you out and like sort of like got you to where you are today?
Yeah, I'm actually self-taught as a screenwriter. I started my career as an actor. And so, but again, there's very limited roles for women, for Asian women, for Asians. And so I realized that, in order to tell the kinds of stories I wanted to tell, I had to write. And so, I basically just studied screenplays. I read some screenwriting books, but at the time there were only books on writing features. So I did manage to, so I moved from Toronto to LA, to be an actor originally, but then I met all these amazing writers and directors and realized there's so many other options, and I'm not the kind of person to wait around for my phone to ring.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to write. And so I wrote a screenplay about the comfort women, which is again something that I felt very passionate about, and that really spoke to me. Basically, before and during World War II, the Japanese military abducted over 200,000 women and forced them into sexual slavery to serve their troops. And it was, a devastating and very, tragic story that when I saw this display in the Metropolitan Toronto Library, and it was like a memorial display, and I felt just so devastated by it. And then I felt ignorant, and I thought, well, how do I not know about this? And then when I did further research, I realized, well, nobody knew because it was buried for 50 years. It was only, in the early 90s that people started talking about it, because at the time, they just thought, well, they're women and they're Asian women, so nobody cared. Nobody cared to tell that story. So I was really driven to tell that story, get it out, and it literally kept me up at night. So I would work late at night. Scenes would come to my head. Because I wasn't properly educated as a screenwriter. I would just like write whatever came to my mind, and realize that that's not the best way to structure it. So it took me a long time to write it, but my roommates at the time made fun of me, and they said, you need to set an alarm clock for when to go to sleep, because it was literally keeping me up at night. But that screenplay ended up winning the Slamdance screenplay competition. And so that was, that was pretty exciting. That was shocking to me, actually. I had submitted to some other screenplay competition. I was using competitions as deadlines for myself. It's like, okay, that's a deadline. That's when I have to get my next draft out. And that sort of kept me disciplined, as a writer. And I'd submitted to some, smaller competitions. And Slamdance was actually more expensive. And I thought, well, I'm never going to place, but they offer professional coverage. So, if nothing else, I get professional coverage. And so when I won, it was pretty much a shock to me.
It's amazing.
But I think one of the most moving experiences for that was, first I got a letter saying I'm a semi-finalist, and then I got a phone call saying I'm a finalist, come to the WGA. And I went to the WGA, and they had a bunch of the readers who were there. And I introduced myself. I'm Miranda Kwok. I wrote Song of Silence. And one of the women just like, oh my God. She's like, I was bawling my eyes out when I read your script. And I thought, like, wow, if nothing else, that was worth it, because I was able to affect somebody and teach somebody something. And then they announced I won. And so that was kind of the launching point of my career. Well, not quite, because even still, Slamdance is known as sort of an independent festival. So since I won, people asked for my script, but then they were like, okay, this is some, they were looking for like the next like horror, thriller, or genre piece. And here's this like World War II epic drama about sexual slavery, which is a very challenging piece to move forward. So, but it did get me some attention. It got me an agent, and then of course the agent said, well, what about television? And I thought, well, what about television? Because I have no idea. And I guess it helps to have an agent. So he encouraged me to write a pilot, and then people met with me and said, obviously you've proven you can write, but now you need to prove you can write someone else's show. So I watched 3 seasons of House. And again, I just studied the structure, the format, the characters. I wrote a spec in 2 weeks. Again, that surprised myself, and sent it to my agent. He said, this has put you at the top of my pitching list. And then the writer's strike happened. So again, I had to start to pound the pavement. So a lot of the studios and networks actually have diversity and mentorship programs for young aspiring writers. So I submitted to a bunch of them. I was a finalist for Writers on the Verge, and I got into the CBS program. And then right around the same time, I ended up meeting Stephen DeKnight, who just got his own show, and he was just starting to staff Spartacus. So, it was a casual meeting, and, it was literally like in a bar. I met through a friend, and there was like loud music blaring, and she's like, hey, well, how's everything going? And I said, yeah, things are going, because I was acting, I was producing, and I was just trying to start writing. So I said, well, things are going well on the writing front. you know, I just got into CBS, finalized for NBC, had 3 meetings to lie to me. And she points to the guy next to her and she said, well, you should talk to Steve because he just got his own show and he's staffing next week. And
Right.
I had no idea that this guy who had like a shaved head and tribal tattoos up both his arms was Stephen DeKnight. So didn't think anything of it. The next day I get a call from Linda and she says, well, Steve was really impressed by you. Do you have a script? And I said, sure. And I sent over my house spec on a Friday afternoon. I get an email Friday night saying, read your spec, loved it, and I hate everything I read. Can you meet tomorrow for lunch?
Wow.
So, so we met, and the funny thing is, the first thing he said was, "You're the only writer who I've been able to Google and see her kicking ass online."
Nice.
So I had, because I had a lot of like martial arts clips online, which works through Spartacus.
Right.
So, you know, we had a nice chat. He said, what else do you have? And the only other screenplay I had was the Comfort Woman script, which normally is, you know, it's a challenge for television as a sample because it's feature, it's historical, it's about Asian women. But it's about slavery, and Spartacus is about slavery. So it ended up actually being the perfect piece. So he sent both scripts to Ghost House Pictures and Stars, and 2 weeks later I got staffed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Such a
So
great, yeah, go ahead.
yes.
Sir.
So that was my first, I guess, the first breakthrough.
Nice.
And so I definitely have Stephen DeKnight to thank. And then more recently, I also have Jason Rothenberg to thank for bringing me onto The 100. The 100 that was on the CW network, which was also produced by Warner Brothers. So basically I worked on The 100 for 4 seasons. But after the 3rd season, my contract was up and the show wasn't sure if it was coming back. So I went out for staffing. And, you know, I interviewed, I was offered another job. And so I went to tell Jason that I got another show. And he's like, no, we want you back.
Yeah.
And Kim, the number 2, was like, well, we don't know if we got a pickup, so we can't hold her. And he's like, well, let me see what we can do. And so he reached out to Warner Brothers and we got a call to say, Warner Brothers is offering us a blind script deal, or offering me. And so what that means, it's a development deal. And so they wanted me to agree to come back to The 100 if it got renewed.
Yeah.
And if so, then I would also have a development deal to go along with that. So of course I said yes. And The 100 came back. So I ended up working full-time on The 100 while developing The Cleaning Lady with Warner Brothers.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
It was a lot of late nights, and,
Yeah.
you know, evenings and weekends. Basically, I was pretty much working around the clock.
So you're from Toronto and I'm from Toronto, and you can tell it's gray up here. It's not like LA. So and it's kind of cold. But for those who want to do that transition, for all the up and coming talent, whether it be writers or actors, tell us what that transition is like from Toronto to LA. And then is there any sort of like advice that you would like to shed to those people who haven't done that move, or before they actually make that move?
I would say it's not easy, for one. But I would say follow your passion. And if you have, you know, a story that's burning inside you to tell, then that's a story to tell. Don't try to skew it to what you think people want, because that's not going to be authentic. And what people want to see on the page for writers is an authentic voice. They want to see what your point of view is. They want to know that you have a story to tell. So I would say, you know, a lot of people say, write what you know. It's kind of the same idea. It's like, write what you're passionate about, write what drives you, what you know, you care about. And that's what's going to shine through. You know, the challenge, the coming from Toronto to LA, it is not easy. I'm not going to talk about my exact journey because there was a lot of figuring out to do and a lot of pounding the pavement. And, when I spoke about my journey and my difficulties and the struggle, that's part of how I sold this show, actually,
Right.
is to share, you have to lean on your wits. You have to not take no for an answer. You have to, figure out when doors shut in your face, how are you going to go around that? So it's, yeah, you have to have a good support system as well.
Hmm.
I mean, I had a best friend. I mean, I literally came down here without a job, without a visa, without, like a work visa. Obviously, you could come as a tourist.
Yeah.
And, I crashed on my friend's, well, she actually only had a studio apartment. So I would say I crashed on the couch, but we were on the couch, both of us.
Yeah.
We were on a futon, sharing that in a little studio apartment, and, took the bus around town, which I don't know if you know, but in LA, public transportation is not easy,
No, yeah.
because it's like three different cities, right? And so the transit system is not good. So if I needed the car, I would have to drive her. I'd take her an hour to drive her to work, and then go where I needed to go, and then pick her up again from work in rush hour traffic. And but I'm grateful that I had her. I had my best friend from Toronto here, Tamala, so I definitely owe her a lot of thanks as well. But having that base, to then go out there and pound the pavement really really helped.
Absolutely. So tell us, what can we look forward to from you? And are there any other projects that you are actually working on that you would like to see come to light soon?
Yeah, well, we're pitching on season 2, so we're already, got had a pitch session with Warner Brothers, and then the next step, we just got some notes, adjusting, going to pitch Fox, and so hopefully season 2 will come soon. In addition to that, I also have another blind script deal at Warner Brothers, so developing another show for them. And there's also shows that I've done, for one, the Comfort Woman script, I would love still to one day have that produced.
Hmm.
That I won Slam Dance in 2004, so it's quite a while ago.
Hmm.
But the climate has changed a lot since then,
Hmm.
and even within Asia, and the politics in Asia have changed. And I
Right.
think now there's more of an opportunity to make a movie like that.
Hmm.
And I've also played with the idea of having that as a TV show as well. But again, doing something that is historical is often a challenge to pitch. But if somebody is open to doing it, then I would love to do that. There's also another project that I pitched in 2014, and it actually sold to a cable network, and that's called Snakehead, and that's
Hmm.
inspired by like a famous person called Sister Ping, Chen
Hmm.
Shui Ping, and she's an extraordinary woman. She was basically born in communist China,
Hmm.
and she was completely uneducated, and was a mother of 4.
Hmm.
And she made her way to New York City and became the biggest immigrant smuggler in history.
Hmm. Yeah.
She evaded the authorities for 20 years on 6 different continents. And so it's this amazing story of how she started, just she brought her own family across, and she brought like her relatives, and then her neighbors, and then like the whole village, and then like all of she was Fukinese, and so they attribute, some say tens of thousands, some say hundreds of thousands of people that she brought over to the US and Canada through
Hmm.
this 20-year history. So it's an extraordinary story where she was a hero in the eyes of the Chinese, because she was giving people new opportunities, allowing people to, start new lives when they were faced with certain struggles in China. And she really just, carved a path that
Hmm.
no one had made before. So it's quite extraordinary. And that is definitely a story that I would love to get on screen as well.
Mm. Well, thank you so much, Miranda, for doing this for us here at FERNTV, and thanks for doing this quite early in the morning. But as I can see in the background there, it's nice and warm in LA, and it's bringing up the warmth here up in cold Toronto. But thank you once again for such a insightful interview on your career, and congratulations once again on the cleaning lady, and hopefully you can talk to us again sometime in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was
Thank
great
you.
speaking to you.